Hello friends, it's Monica, also known as Sleeved After 60, and I'm coming to you to talk about something that's been on my mind. I am week 65 out from having had VSG. I'm 65 years old, 5'5", right under, because I'm shrinking, and I'm kind of staying steady at about 139 pounds. So I'm go from like 138 to 141, 140. So, and I've managed to do that since September when I hit normal weight. Normal BMI, I think is what it's called. So here's what I want to talk about. I went to WLFSA, and what comes up for me when I talk about being present that people ask about. And I've really struggled sharing this information about being present. What does it mean? What does it mean? Some of the issues that I've dealt with in the last about 2 years. So here's what I'm going to try to explain. About 6 years ago, my now husband, my fiance at the time of, 17 years, we've been together 23 years, he was diagnosed with MCI, mild cognitive impairment. That was 6 years ago. Then about 4 to 5 years ago, maybe 5 years, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And that's what I don't talk about. It's not a secret. If you've met me in person or if we've had some personal conversations, I may have mentioned that to you. The reason why I haven't talked about it is because I didn't want to be that person on YouTube that in addition to having an eating disorder, having gone to treatment for an eating disorder and everything else, was a caregiver with a partner who has Alzheimer's. So about 3 years ago this June, actually a little more than that, but we always had separate households. So about 3 years ago or so, we decided that we needed to start living together and that my life was too stressful, my job and dealing with my honey, and how Alzheimer's works. He's fine. He's 11 years older than I am, so he had been already retired, waiting for me to retire. And what happened was the stress of the diagnosis and my job. I had an incredible, stressful job that I did for over 30 years. That together was really had some consequences on my health. And I think that I've mentioned before that I went from just being overweight, anxiety, to having a lot of anxiety, and I needed to take to the relationship and retire. So I did that, and we combined homes. By then we had been together over 20 years. I sold my home. It happened really quickly. I sold it in 5 days and all that stuff, and lived together. And I retired. So that's 3 years ago this June. And then my health was at its worst. I had high blood pressure. I had really bad sleep apnea. I had really bad GERD, which is a type of severe heartburn. And I don't even remember the other things that I had, but I think those three, were enough. And I was at 240 pounds. I had gone to treatment, to eating disorder treatment. I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder. And in 2009, I went to outpatient treatment to deal with it. and I gained the last 30 pounds afterwards. Eating disorder treatment has nothing, I shouldn't say has nothing to do, it's not a weight loss. It's about your relationship with food and about making peace with food. And which I think is why I've been as successful as I have been post-surgery, because I took care of that and maintained and remained in therapy. But one of of what happened to me was that now 3 years ago, so April 1st of, I think it was 2016, because it was a year. 2016, I went to my primary doctor and said, I need help. I need to lose the weight. You know, she knew about my treatment and all that, but I needed to get healthy, because the thing that was the most damaging to my body was that GERD, that I always had this, you know, fire in my throat when I would go to bed, and the sleeping disorder, the sleeping issues. So I decided that I needed to get healthy, because the idea of something happening to me, and my husband, my now husband, having Alzheimer's, was devastating, because what was going to happen to him. And I needed to take care of that, because I was afraid. I was afraid that my risk for throat cancer and for different cancers that had to do with, and interestingly enough, then we found out I had a hernia, but that area, because of all that heat, that acid. I also had been diagnosed years ago with asthma, which is kind of interesting, because I never had it as a child, and then we found out that it was in fact the GERD that caused the acid to get into my lungs, because I would have periods in the middle of the night, and that's what caused it. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got to a bariatric team, and that's how, because I had tried in the past, and my BMI wasn't high enough, even at 240 pounds, and at my height at 5'5". So anyway, when I went, they said, well, you have these comorbidity issues. Okay, so fast forward a year, I get surgery, and Alzheimer's is a nasty, nasty disease, and it continues. Like I said, health-wise, he's fine. It's all about the short-term memory. So far, so good. We're in our home. What happened, though, that happened about a year before, since that April 1st. So, and I had surgery March 13th, so it was almost a year later. What's interesting is that once my issue with my weight and my health, and especially the eating disorder, once I had that under control, and I said, when I went to see my primary doctor, I said, I want to be present. I want to be present in what's going on in our lives, because I don't want to have regrets that, I spent all this time and energy on my eating, my weight, my health, and not being present for my relationship. And along the way, I made that clear to all of my other doctors. So my surgeon was aware of it. And what happened? What happened was that once I took away, because I follow sort of a program of being a recovery program and an abstinence base. So I don't binge eat. At times I've had periods of binge eating, but because I also do abstinence from certain foods, sugar, carbohydrates, all those things, kind of snacky foods. That's why I don't do bars and all those, because anything, and sometimes I can get into that with blueberries, and I can do that mindless sort of binge eating, right? Even though the scale, if you follow the scale, whatever, I look at the behavior and not the scale. So as things started to fall into place with my weight loss and being present for my life got real. And that's where I am now. And what happens is that, I remember this from being working with women in chemical dependency, families, not just women, because I worked with families, how I would talk about, once women went to treatment and they were with their children and with or without their partners, and I would say, this is life. It becomes the boring details of everyday life of, if you're in poverty or if you're in a bad relationship or if you're old, aging, but then the reality, because that crisis is gone. And that's kind of where I am, the reality of life, that there's a sense of sadness and loss. Every time I talk to somebody about ambiguous loss, this is what I was talking about. It is my ambiguous loss that I'm feeling good, I'm feeling healthy, I'm living a good life, and my partner is losing, my life partner, my husband, is losing his memory, and in time it'll be a memory of us, right? And what happens is that because that overeating isn't part of my life, that I can't tune it out. So, for example, and I've said this to some of you who I've met in person, that the issue of sadness, it's not depression, it's sadness. There's a sense of sadness. And the thing is that for me, when I was active in my eating disorder, I couldn't get there, because you start the day out with, today I'm going to be better. Why can't I do this? Why can't I control my weight? Why can't I control my eating? Why can't, and then that would become my battle cry, as opposed to the partner, my life partner of 23 years is losing his short-term memory. I'm becoming more and more of a caregiver and alone in the relationship, and I can't do anything about it. I just can't. So that's where it goes. And being present means you're present for the good stuff and you're present for the bad stuff. You're there, and that all the other stuff isn't around. There's also guilt, because I've never been healthier, I've never felt better about myself, I've never looked better, and all of that doesn't change the fact that my husband is forgetting our life, What does this mean? It means that that's my story. And it means that sometimes I don't feel like coming on and doing a video, because I come from a background of helping others. I don't do a good job of getting help or asking for help. I go to a couple of support meetings a month, but that's where I am. It's about now. It's about reality. It's about kindness and grace. When I talk about kindness and grace, oh man, every day. And that's what being present means. So I'm going to stop here. We're in this together, and you know that. Besos to everyone, and thank you, because those of you who know, you're incredible, and you've been incredible. And please don't feel left out if I didn't tell you. It's just that I wanted to do it in person. So I apologize. And it's okay. I'm okay. Right now, today, we're okay. Besos. Ciao.